story of the biggest and brightest festival in the Sikh calendar.
This week, cities across Britain will come alive to the sights and sounds of huge, colourful and joyous parades.
There was a martial arts display, there was celebrations and singing.
It's a great family occasion.
This is Vaisakhi, a vivid global festival for which Britain's 500,000 strong Sikh community take to the streets to celebrate their holiest day of the year.
It's very much recognised as the birth of the Sikh nation.
It's very important not just to celebrate for the sake of celebrating, but to celebrate and remember what has happened in the past.
But what is the true meaning of Vaisakhi, and how did its sacred teachings ensure that Sikhs stand out in a crowd?
I'm a Sikh. I will give my life, but not my turban.
And how are Vaisakhi's moral codes and spiritual values being lived out today by Sikhs in Britain?
You become a warrior and not a warrior.
For the origins of Vaisakhi, we have to delve back to ancient times and a harvest festival celebrated in the Punjab state in India. On this day, at the start of spring, Punjabis traditionally give thanks to God for a good harvest and to mark the start of the new solar year.
In the Bikrami calendar, the Indian calendar, Vaisakhi is the first month, and on the back of the harvest festival, the farmers used to celebrate big time because it was a time when they essentially received their rewards for all their years' hard labour.
It's a time of new beginning, celebrated across India. There were lots of festivities, probably some sporting events.
In many parts of India, Vaisakhi is traditionally marked by ritualistic bathing in sacred rivers. In the 15th century, in the Indian state of Punjab, the Sikhs' first guru, or spiritual leader, established the Sikh faith, a new monotheistic religion which asserted that man's salvation lay in his faith, his character and his eagerness to do good, along with a respect for followers of other religions.
The religion was founded by Guru Nanak, who emphasised at the very beginning of the need for respect for religions. He felt that God was not interested in religious labels, that God was looking at the purity of our heart and our souls. He even went as far as saying, there is no Muslim, there is no Hindu, na koi Hindu, na koi Musliman, there is just the human being.
This new faith attracted growing numbers of followers in northern India over the next 2 centuries. But by the late 1600s, the Sikhs, now led by the 10th Guru, Guru Gobind Singh, feared that their religion was in danger of being totally wiped out. India's Mughal rulers were threatening the right of all non-Muslims from practicing their faith. So Guru Gobind Singh decided it was imperative that Sikhs be prepared to fight back, as well as adopting an instantly recognisable look to help them stand apart from India's Hindus and Muslims. To prove his point, he came up with a daring plan to test their devotion. On the day of Vaisakhi in 1699, Sikhs from all over the Punjab had gathered to celebrate the harvest festival and listen to their guru, Gobind Singh. He emerged from a tent carrying a long sword, which he pointed at the crowd. "Who among you will lay down their lives for God?" he asked. The crowd fell silent as Guru Gobind Singh repeated his question 3 times. Eventually, a young Sikh moved forward and disappeared into the tent with the Guru. Moments later, the Guru reappeared alone, his sword apparently dripping with blood. The crowd gasped, fearing the young man had been killed. Guru Gobind Singh asked for another volunteer and again disappeared into the tent, returning once more with his sword seemingly covered in blood. He repeated this a further 3 times until a total of 5 Sikhs had accompanied him into the tent. The crowd grew restless until eventually the Guru stepped out of the tent with all 5 young men alive and dressed identically. Guru Gobind Singh announced that these 5 men were special because they'd been prepared to die for their faith and would henceforth be known as the Panj Pyare, the 5 beloved ones. The Guru declared all Sikhs should follow their brave example. He then produced a steel bowl which he filled with water and sugar crystals and stirred the mixture with a double-edged sword while prayers were recited. Guru Gobind Singh named this mixture Amrit and sprinkled some on the beloved ones and gave them some to drink. He then asked them to do the same for him and proclaimed that by doing so, a group of baptized Sikhs had been formed, which would be known as the Khalsa. It's through this ceremony, which still takes place today, that Sikhs pledge to live a life of pure devotion to Sikh principles. The commitment to fight oppression while promising devotion to Sikh teachings gave rise to a concept known as Saint Soldier, emphasised by Guru Gobind Singh's proclamation that all Sikhs should pledge to observe the 5 Ks.
The 5 Ks have both a practical significance and a spiritual significance, which mirrors the whole Saint Soldier philosophy. Sikhs are encouraged to live a spiritual life whilst protecting others and fighting tyranny.
The first K is Kesh, meaning hair.
Hair is very, very important for Sikhs, not just for the value of the fact that we're growing it, but for the value of the fact that we're keeping it too. It gives us our prominence. We are easily identifiable by keeping our hair.
Guru Kaur is a London-based spiritual healer and teacher. She quit a high-flying job in the city over a decade ago and found fulfilment in Sikhism. She took Amrit at the Sikhs' holiest shrine, the Golden Temple complex, and is now devoted to wearing the 5 Ks.
Your strength is in your hair. I mean, that is just a fact. And if you cut your hair, you are really sabotaging yourself. And in my own experience, I've watched many people decide to let their hair grow, and they become stronger, not just physically, but there is a radiance. It's your antenna to how you pick up what's going on in life.
We must keep our hair covered at all times, so it's not just a case of growing our hair. We must maintain it. So our Guru gave us the Ganga, which is a comb. So Kesh was our first K, Ganga was our second K, was to signify cleanliness.
The Gara, small iron bangle, represents the cyclical nature of life.
This was a constant reminder that whatever we do in terms of physical acts, that we're responsible for what we're doing. We mustn't do anything bad. And what we do, we must do for the good of mankind and for the good of others around us. Fourth came along the kashara, the undergarment that we wear. And it's a long, almost like a pair of shorts up to the knees. And these signify chastity.
The 5th and final K is Gurban, a ceremonial sword.
The Kirpan, again, it came down as a formal representation to us and a reminder, constant reminder that we're here on this earth to protect those around us. And it's our responsibility to help those who need help, not just ourselves, but anyone around us too.
To further promote the notion of equality, Guru Gobind Singh proclaimed that all Sikh men should take the name Singh, the Punjabi word for lion, and women the name Kaur, meaning princess.
It channels the effort and the focus on non-discrimination. What we don't have is almost like a hierarchy dependent upon surname.
By giving the surname Kaur, which means princess, this was a very radical move, considering the time in India when practices such as sati existed, where a woman had to throw herself onto her husband's funeral pyre because her life was considered nothing without him. Women were encouraged to lead services by the gurus, and in modern-day Britain there is absolute equality. There isn't a single position in Sikh culture or society that a man can have that a woman can't have.
But there are many in the Sikh community who feel equality between the sexes is an ideal that hasn't been fulfilled in reality. Sukhi Danda is a photographer for the Observer newspaper and the creator of a Vaisakhi photo project shot in New York.
Sikhism, from my upbringing and from what I've observed and what I've experienced, men and women aren't equal. So the idea that Guru Gobind Singh, I'm sure he meant well, but I don't think in practice it's worked. I mean, I think that is a big area for improvement.
Sikhism could be deemed to be patriarchal, but it means that the women need to rise up to be princesses. If you want to be treated with respect, you need to be to behave with respect. And to behave in the Sikh way with respect is to behave as a princess. And that doesn't mean to be a high-maintenance prima donna. It means really, doing whatever is required, no matter what. And maintaining your grace. All a woman has to do is maintain her dignity, her divinity and her grace.
In addition to the call for equality, on Vaisakhi in 1699, Guru Gobind Singh reiterated the need for every Sikh to provide seva.
In the community, we try and show our selflessness by doing seva, which is selfless service. When you go into a gurdwara, what you'll see is not just people serving langar or free food, but also cooking it and also washing the dishes and also picking up the dirty dishes from the people who've finished eating. So the cycle of making, creating, serving and washing up and cleaning afterwards, it's all part of that community spirit. And no one is restricted to eating langar, and you'll sit in a pangat, which means you'll sit equally, whether you're a king or a pauper, you'll sit and be served in exactly the same way. And again, that emphasises a non-discrimination.
The concept of providing selfless service is lived out in gurdwaras or Sikh temples around the world, where anyone, regardless of colour, race or faith, is welcomed through the doors. In many British inner cities, this, along with the core Sikh value of standing up to injustice, is coming to the aid of those in the most desperate of need.
Behind me you can see that we're under a bridge, and we're under the M4 bridge here, where we've got about 12 homeless guys sleeping rough. If it wasn't for the local Gurdwara, the Sikh temples, providing langar, which is free food for these types of people, I think we would be in a far more serious situation with them.
For us, it's God's house, and the 4 doors are open to everybody and anybody, regardless of faith, colour, creed. Even if you're an atheist, everyone's welcome to have a free meal in the Gurdwara.
At the moment, they can go in, they can have breakfast, they can go in for lunch, they can go in for dinner. Nobody stops them, so there's free food for them all day long. There's certain Gurdwara working with the council to make shelters for the homeless, raising money, they're raising awareness. So there are Gurdwara around the country that are doing various things to help the homeless.
The warm reception Gurdwaras provide to non-Sikhs can be seen in the architecture of the Sikhs' holiest shrine, the Golden Temple in Amritsar, Punjab. Its 4 entrances represent a welcome to people from all 4 corners of the world.
The treatment of all people as equal, considering everyone as equal, that no one religion should have a monopoly of truth, and that there is good in everybody. And I think today, in our troubled times, we could learn a lot from those teachings.
But the road to equality for Sikhs in Britain was a rocky one.
When all the skies are grey.
The fight for respect and acceptance began with post-war immigration into Britain, as Indians began arriving to seek their fortune and plug the manual labour gaps in Britain's mills and foundries.
Tell that umbrella man he's just an also-ran.
Religious festivities remained low-key, as the tiny Sikh community celebrated its holiest days behind closed doors.
When a community first comes to a new country, there's a fear of looking different. How will they be treated? Best to keep yourself to yourself. And also there was a degree of discrimination.
When the lease of an old house falls vacant, a coloured man may take it up. Then other coloured folk swarm in and fill it to bursting point. They look different and they sound different, and their tastes in matters of food are different. They must have rice for curries. It's hard to break the habits of a lifetime and eat with forks and spoons. and curry has a very strong and very un-English smell.
When my father came in the late 50s, there was a lot of discrimination, and a lot of Sikhs chose to cut their hair.
Today, well over half the bus crews are immigrants. 70 are Sikhs, and the strict Sikhs religion demands both beards and turbans. To take up the job, the 70 have shaved off their beards and put their turbans on one side.
By the 1970s, the battle for equality and justice faced by Sikhs and other immigrant communities in Britain was growing increasingly fraught.
If you actually look back to, say, the 70s, it was really a reflection of the sort of society we lived in Britain. You know, there used to be demonstrations by the right wing, and therefore sometimes community members were reluctant to celebrate Vaisakhi on the streets.
But tumultuous events in the Punjab in 1984 would galvanise many Sikhs into standing up for their rights and reclaiming their identity. In response to the Indian Army's assault on the Golden Temple, thousands of British Sikhs grew their hair and donned turbans for the first time.
I think in the 80s you saw the community becoming a lot more confident, and I think there's been no turning back.
Surendra Singh Danjal lost his job at British Steel after the new hard hat rules came in. A tribunal said exemptions for turbans now only apply to building sites, which are governed by a special law.
I'm a Sikh. I will give my life, but not my turban.
You ask youngsters now, they feel quite comfortable about keeping their hair. Often their parents might have cut their hair, but they bring up their children as Sikhs. So it's become easier because there's a much wider acceptance that Sikhs are nothing to fear. This is just a way of life. So I think the more we take our message out there, the easier it becomes.
Sikhs have faced discrimination, as have other communities, and that's changed. Sikhs have had the confidence through Guru Gobind Singh's teachings on that special day to challenge discrimination. The whole community has worked together, not just to help themselves on that issue, but to help others as well, which is exactly what Guru Gobind Singh taught us to do.
The British Sikh community's growing confidence has been mirrored by the size and scale of Vaisakhi celebrations, which today provide a spectacular feast of colour and noise.
It's very different for my children now. They're growing up at a time when people know a lot more about Sikhs, that it's perfectly acceptable to have a Gurdwara procession going down the street, and people seem very willing to join in the celebrations, whatever their background.
What you've seen over the last 25 years, and now it's become a regular event, is you see Nagar Kirtans, processions, in virtually most of our cities in the UK. And not just in the UK, in places like Canada, the States, it's all over the world now.
On the day of Vaisakhi, there's a great excitement among Sikh families where you wake up and in your mind subconsciously you imagine that this is the same day as 1699, and perhaps if we were there in that congregation of 80,000 people, would we have volunteered to give our lives and take the stage of Guru Gobind Singh Ji's Khalsa initiation? And what we have is a very, very special procession. We could refer to this as Nagar Kirtan. And Nagar means town, and Kirtan means singing hymns. The Nagar Kirtan is a way of actually reliving the mass congregation making its way to see our Guru. And our Guru is represented by the Khalsa Panth, the Panj Pyare. And they walk in front, they lead the procession. Behind them is a highly decorated palanquin which holds our Guru Granth Sahib Ji.
The Sikh holy book, the Guru Granth Sahib, is revered as a living guru, and the level of respect it's granted is evident from its role at the very heart of the Vaisakhi parade.
And the whole congregation follows his palanquin. They clean the roads with water and with brooms. Some people put flower petals, some people spray perfume, some people have fireworks.
And it's a way of celebrating your faith, sharing your faith, and perhaps taking some of those messages about equality, about being open, accepting other faiths, giving out free food, because that concept of Guru Ka Langar is very much confined to our Gurdwaras, this free food kitchen. In a way, that's expanded, you know, on the streets of, say, your local town or city.
So you've got lots of people, and in the procession you may have people who are dancing, showing Bhangra, which is more of a traditional cultural celebration as opposed to religious. And you also get the Sikh martial arts specialists who do their displays of gatka with the swords and the arrows and the great martial art displays. And it constitutes to a huge, long sort of like convoy.
It's very important not just to celebrate for the sake of celebrating, but to celebrate and remember what has happened in the past.
Once the procession reaches the Gurdwara, a ritual takes place which connects Vaisakhi back to its ancient origins as a harvest festival, marking the start of a new solar year. The Nishan Sahib, the Sikh holy flag, is lowered and then the flagpole is washed. A new flag is then put on the pole, and the pole raised to enable the Nishan Sahib to fly proudly above the Gurdwara for the coming year. The Vaisakhi celebrations culminate in an important religious service which Sikh families attend at the Gurdwara. In many British cities, this event takes place on the evening of Vaisakhi.
Happy Vaisakhi!
The Mukkan family from Manchester agreed to show us how they would typically celebrate this special day.
It's very important to look smart and dignified on Vaisakhi. We're going to Gurdwara, everybody's going to look their best and look their smartest.
It is the most important day in the Sikh calendar, so that's why everybody makes an effort to get dressed smart.
Brilliant, boys. You're looking so smart, lovely, and it's so important that we look our best, isn't it, for Vaisakhi? Yeah? Ready to go?
Yeah. Yes.
Fantastic, let's go. It's very important, as good Sikhs, to make a donation towards the Gurdwara all the time, but especially Vaisakhi, because of the harvest significance that it has. So, you know, we're all doing our little bit for the community and taking whatever we can. Come, boys. Go to me.
The family head to their local Gurdwara and take their food donations to the prayer room where all offerings receive a holy blessing. On Vaisakhi, it's traditional to have a continuous reading of the entire Sikh holy book, the Guru Granth Sahib.
The service usually involves concluding the reading of the Guru Granth Sahib. It would have been read from front to cover, and in the special ceremony we will also have a historical reminder of the events of Vaisakhi as an inspiration to all of us.
The key themes of Vaisakhi are this experience of really transforming from just being to living in an exalted state in total service, totally fearless of death, really conquering one's own fears. What attracted me to living a Sikh way of life is its universal, it's totally inspiring, and it's a way of living which is for your highest consciousness and the highest consciousness of the planet. And a great phrase is, you become a warrior and not a warrior.
Vaisakhi is like a reminder of our roots, really, and I think it's important because I think we sometimes can lose sight of it, really. I think particularly in this modern world, and you know, for me particularly, like going to the Gurdwara, I really feel like, whoa, you know, you go into the Gurdwara in the space and you sit down and you know, you're there and equal with everybody else on the floor, just not saying anything, but just have your hands together, clasped together, and just sit in silence, you know, and just listen. And that is so beautiful in the sense of, it really reminds you of the kind of crazy world you live in, because it's just so nice to be at peace. Do you know what I mean? And that's, I think, when it sort of hits me and I kind of get emotional.
Back at the Gurdwara, the langar has been prepared, and a portion of the food, which will be shared by the worshippers after the service, is taken to the prayer room to be blessed. This is enacted via a ritual in which a steel blade is ceremonially dipped into the food. Through this symbolic act, the entire food for the congregation receives a blessing. The service ends by returning the Guru Granth Sahib back to its special resting place. And then the congregation makes its way down to the langar hall to eat. It's traditional for all worshippers, regardless of age, gender or status, to join in with the serving of the food.
I haven't yet, Yar. I'm going to join you in just one moment. It's buzzing. People from all over the northwest have come to Gurdwara Sahib, they've listened to the service, and they've all sat down to have Guru Ka Langar.
For many Sikh families, the day of Vaisakhi ends with a private prayer service at home.
The way we like to end Vaisakhi at home at night time is to do Kirtan Swalapat. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
300 years ago on Vaisakhi, Guru Gobind Singh exhorted followers of the Sikh faith to stand up for their beliefs. And the British Sikh community, once shy of openly rejoicing on its holiest days, is now fulfilling that call as it celebrates the birthday of modern Sikhism with a rich, diverse and inclusive pageant.
The celebrations for Vaisakhi have increased in size extensively over the years because the Sikh community seems to be much more confident.
To remember the special moment of 1699, I think the future should really concentrate on the message of Vaisakhi, the humility, the non-discrimination aspect, because these messages are ubiquitous. They're for everyone, irrespective of your religion. You can follow these attributes and you can assign them to your own religion and the way that you live. And I hope that this will promote and propagate the message of Sikhism through the Vaisakhi celebrations. So the celebrations can only get bigger and better.